Another enlightening session on OT Security Huddle 14. Today, we are going to discuss the security issues of Power Grid. And before we begin, my apologies that our live streaming platform Restream was not cooperating. We are having so much of back and forth trying to get into the session. But now I hope this session will continue and we will continue with our discussion. And again, I'll take this opportunity to your support, joining us live and waiting on the platform. Before I begin, big thank to Astha. Dr. Astha is PhD in PhD from IIT Delhi, and her topic for PhD is cyber attack resilient design for wide area measurement system and smart grid. And I feel she is a good candidate to discuss the topic that we have put for today, which is security for smart grid. I am excited about this discussion, and I hope you will all enjoy this technical discussion with security consideration of smart grid. And at the end of the session, like always, we'll be having a question and answer session. And you can also, throughout the session, ask your question. We will try to answer that through the discussion itself. But at the end, there would be a dedicated section of around 5 to 10 minutes to answer all your questions for the OT security in a smart grid. So this is us. My name is Shiv, and along with Manju, who is the co-host for this event, are the one who conduct this session, OT Security Huddle. So far, we have conducted more than 15 sessions and some boot camps. And if you are interested to watch our previous sessions, you can go to our YouTube channel and watch them. And then I would be highly recommending you to watch these sessions specifically on OT security risk assessment and then the certification requirement and all of them. And today we have our guest Astha Chawla, who has extensive experience specifically working on the smart grid systems. She has been instrumental in designing some secure solutions for government of India as well. And in the past 2 years, she has been working with me as my days of in the Siemens organization. She is my colleague. And I'm happy to have her here to continue the discussion that we generally do on security at work. Before we begin formally with the agenda, have a friendly disclaimer that whatever we are discussing on this platform is out of our personal interest. This should not be construed as our opinion about this particular technology and the opinion of the organization as such. So I would appreciate that if you take this discussion as community work that we're trying to do. So what we are going to discuss today is we'll briefly discuss the building blocks and the basics of power grid, and then we'll see some past incident against power grid, some security concerns, why we should be concerned about security of power grids. Then we will discuss about the security standards and the frameworks. Finally, how you should be prepared for security resiliency in a smart grid, and at the end, we'll be taking up the question answer. So, what is a power grid? So, power grid is basically a combination of different entities, starting from generation of the power to making it available to our consumers or customers or the resident of that particular area. It will involve power generation through power plant. These could be your coal-fired power plant or let's say thermal power plant. Maybe they are renewable energies, and maybe they could be your hydropower generation, diesel generators, or maybe solar power generation. Then you would be transmitting them through different substations. You need to maintain the voltage and current of those power generated, and then finally you will make it distribute to the citizens or the consumers through a different entity called substations. At the customer premise, you will have metering infrastructure that will measure how much consumption the customer has done, and this information would fed back to particular utility, in this case the discoms or distribution companies, and they will use it for billing and the other economic activity. So at the high level, the power grid basically have these four entities, starting from the power generation to the customer premise at the end. Now I'll hand over to Dr. Astha to take us through the technical aspect of smart grid. What are the different frameworks? What are the different standards, the security concerns, the past incidents? We will be going through this enlightening journey. Before handing it over to you, Astha, again, one more time, thank you. Thanks for your time, for putting up the slide deck, and then being available for this discussion. Over to you, Astha.
Thank you so much, Shiv, for having me. I'm equally excited for this session, and I'm looking forward for a very interactive session. So yes, audience, we are here. Please have your questions and all. So we are here to answer it all. Looking forward to it. Yeah. So continuing from where Shiv just right now left. So whatever Shiv mentioned right now, like transmission, generation, your distribution, and then the metering and all. So that constituted the physical aspect of the grid, right? The very traditional part of the grid. So let me see if I can have a pointer over here, maybe. Um, okay, never mind. So maybe you can just follow it from the right towards the left. So if you can see, we have a very big block here, generation, right? From where the electricity gets generated and then it gets transmitted to the distribution and the customer via transmission sector as well as a distribution sector, right? So the below four blocks, they constitute the physical aspect of the grid, right? How the electricity being generated in a generating stations being available to the customer at consumer's side, that is towards the extreme left. Yeah. But this infrastructure, this grid is not just it, right? It's very to manage it all, to operate it all, for efficient operation. Also, we need some extended systems, right? So moving towards the top of the slide, we have, if you can say at the very center of it, operational control center. Now this is kind of, this is a kind of a brain of the entire grid, we can say, because this is managing it all, whatever like we as a consumer sitting at our home or offices, we are able to receive the electricity in an efficient manner. So who is kind of controlling it, who is monitoring it? So this is all happening in the operational control center, right? Now this is again connected to, there are a lot of applications which are going on. We will be covering that in the subsequent slides. So like there are a lot of automation systems, there are energy management systems. Now with that, we are all aware, like renewable energy systems are getting into it, right? So generation is not that very linear, like generation, transmission and distribution. It's actually a, very, it's a cycle and it's a complex system now. Now generation is not just happening at a one end, it's also happening at the customer side, right? Via solar panels maybe, or maybe via electric vehicles, right? The batteries can also be used in the coming time as a source of the electricity. So now to handle this complex system, maybe we can move to the top of the slide. So we are having this entire this control system which is handling it, all the applications. And again, now we have market also to it, because if the consumer is getting involved in that, so there has to be tariffs on all which needs to be handled, so that it is it is best for both the grid, the utility side, as well as the customer. Now having said that, if you see all of this, maybe you have might have guessed it by now. So all this is happening how, right? So there are a lot of interconnections which is there. Now when I say that interconnection, it's a communication, it's happening. So every data which is there in generation, your transmission, your distribution, customer, that field level, the data is really really important, and that's getting communicated to the control centers, right? For all the applications which are there. Some of them are time critical, some are not. But to operate them, to take decision, to take the effective decision, I must say, the data communication has to be there. So where am I going at? Like it's like our grid has transformed actually from that physical grid to a cyber physical grid, right? Why? What are the cyber parts of it? Like this operational control centers, the markets, the control. We have SCADA, we have management systems and all, right, at the top of it. So this is, now we can see the top part of it is a cyber part of it, which is it is also integrated to the IT part, which we'll be covering, of course. So that's how the idea of the slide is to give you the perspective that grid is no longer that physical one whose intention is just to give you the supply. Of course, that's one of the part, then one of the important part. But to operate it in an efficient and effective manner, we have a lot of operations that are going on in control centers, which are at the head of the state. Looking from the Indian perspective, so we have NLDC in Delhi, right, which is monitoring all of the grid. Similarly, in Europe also we have it, and in America. So that control center is taking care of everything that is happening. Continuous real-time monitoring and continuous real-time operation and protection is going on, right? Yeah. So for that, the cyber part has been integrated into it, and that's how the grid has become from physical to cyber physical. Yeah. Shiv, do you want to add anything to it?
No, yeah, this is very comprehensive. That in the past, the system was more focused towards generation to reaching out to the customer, and there was only one entity that was generating. Now we are moving toward the smartness, which is basically more towards the more interconnections, more protocols, more communication, and the customer are also able to contribute to the grid. They will generate through solar powered systems, and then this excess energy can be used by other entities or other consumers in that local areas, or maybe they can supply back to the grid. So there is n number of different communication intricacies that has also got introduced. You need to monitor and then make it economically beneficial for the generators as well. So very well explained, Dr. Astha. Thank you for this one.
Okay, so maybe we can move to the next slide. Yeah. So this slide basically, gives a deeper perspective into what we just talked now. That was a, high level thing. If you're interested into going towards like what all, different domains or different verticals in smart grid are like a very high level, again, we have tried to, give you a architectural basis of it, like in different layers, which is a physical as well as a cyber layer. So I'll walk you through one or two of this. Maybe we can look at, let's say, SCADA system, right? So in a physical layer, what do we have? We have like, relays, sensors, we have all that, CTPDs, right? The field levels, so all of these are there, right? Now these are operating, but again, like I said, the data needs to be communicated for better operation and effective performance of that SCADA system, right? Now, what is happening? This will communicate the data via using some OT communication protocols, right, to the control center. Now, control center again, which is kilometers apart, it will have a a SCADA software which will be collecting the data from all these hardwares and will do operations. Let's say state estimation, just that is one example. Another can be load flow analysis, right? Then we have like economic dispatch. So there are a lot of applications that are running in the control center which are using the data coming from the feed. Now to what is the if you walk through me like all these domains, let's say BAMs, right? So there are physical devices are replaced by the phasor measurement units, which is a PMU, right? We also have a time synchronization, which is very important aspect of it. They are also sending the data again to the control center for supervisory control and supervisory protection. You have wide area monitoring, which is currently being used in most of the countries, like including I think US also has that, Europe Union also has that, and also in India, right? We do have a very wide network of it, and there is a PDC at a control center, which is a phaser data concentrator, which is connecting data, right? So likewise, I think the slides just disappear. Chef, am I audible? Okay, maybe I think there is just let's wait for a couple of minutes. There is some issue we are trying to resolve. Thank you for your patience. Just a couple of minutes. Okay, so by the time like Shiv is back and the slides are back actually. So what I was saying, so there are like different different verticals in grid, and every such vertical has some physical components which will be sending data to the control center. Now what is different in all of this apart from the components? If we look at, there are communication protocols which hold a very high importance, and which kind of differentiates all these domains, right? So there are different protocols for each of these verticals, right? We have AMI also, like there you have meters, right? Meters are again sending data to the MDMS system, the HMS system. Now that is also happening via some communication route. Again, we have electric vehicles, right? Now these days that infrastructure is in a very nascent stage, and what is happening? We have electric vehicles that is of course connected to the charger. So there is again a communication between them, right? Now apart from of course the power part, there is a communication of information is there. Now that charger is again sending information to the cloud based backend, right? Now that is also again happening through OCPP protocol. So the idea is to give you like there are different domains, and then there are different components at physical level. There are different components at control center, and of course there are different communication protocols, right? Yeah, maybe so. I can talk more on it once the slides are back. So by that time, till Shiv is back, maybe if you have any questions, you can put that. Yeah. So maybe by the time Shiv is back and the slides are back, let's have questions. Yeah, maybe till now whatever we have covered, it's like let's answer some of the questions. Give me a second. I'll try to fix it. 1 second. Let me share the slides with you. Yeah. Okay, so we have one question over here. What are the key regulations for cybersecurity and power grid for India? Right? Yeah, we will be covering that in detail for sure. But by the time the slides are here, so there are a lot of things. So currently, also we have, we had a specific guidelines which were issued in October 2021, right? No, it's actually, yeah, October 2021. So we had those, specifically for India. Otherwise, in a general level, we have a lot of standards like IC 62443, which is in general for the OT. We have IC 62351, right? ISO 27019 is there, right? So there are a lot of these standards which grid people are, supposed to comply with for enhanced security of it. Yeah. Just a couple of minutes, we will be back. Yeah, 1 second. Yeah, we are back. So I'll be just sharing the slides in a minute. Shiv has some technical issue at his end, so he's trying to join. Just a minute. I'm sharing the slides. Thank you so much for your patience. Okay, please confirm once you can see the slides. Can you see the slides? Yeah. Um, any hands up for that? Like, are the slides visible? Robert, can you confirm that? Like, can you see the slides? Okay. No confirmation for now. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thanks for that. So I've already shared it. One second. Let me stop and do that again. How about now? Can you see the slides? Okay. Yeah. One sec. Um, okay. Yeah. Thanks for the patience. Like we are trying that. One second. It's showing that it's visible, but not sure why. How about now? Like, can you see it now? Just a second. Just a second. Yeah. We okay.
Asta, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Asta?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, Asta, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Yeah.
So you were also kicked out of the meeting?
There was some issue, I'm not sure. I couldn't, operate it nicely. Yeah. Not sure about the glitch, what happened in
Yes.
between. Yeah.
Yeah, this is not definitely not a good day to do this stream. So many issue from the platform side.
I'm very thankful to the audience. They are like, thank you so much for your patience. It's like they're trying to figure out what's happening.
Yes. Yeah. So which slide we were? I think we'll resume.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
okay. Am
So,
I audible now? Can
yes.
people online confirm? You okay? First of all, my apologies, guys. This is the platform which is not cooperating. Then there is a power drop here, and all my UPS inverter everything failed suddenly. Then the Wi-Fi was not working. So I just overcome all of the challenges, and I hope that we will continue with this session. So thanks, Asta, for filling in. And I know I put you on a tough spot being the guest, and I had
I think that's something with the live streaming, right? And each one of us do understand that. Yeah.
yes. So which slide you were? We'll
Yeah.
resume from
Yeah.
there.
I'm explaining this. So I'll just continue with this. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Let's continue with this one, and then we'll take it over from there.
Yeah, sure. So, like resuming back, so I'll just pick up from where I left. So, yeah, I was explaining about SCADA, then I give you a glance about what VAMS is. Again, we have AMI, that's also I talked about EV charging and all. So, just to summarize with what we were discussing, we have seen like there are different components in each of these verticals of smart grid at a physical layer. Then there is a different, again, the receivers and the applications are different at the control center. And most importantly, all of this, if you notice at the OT communication protocols, each of these different domains have different communication protocols. Why? Because again, like the applications are different. The purpose of these systems are entirely different from one another, and hence even the protocols, because some of them needs to be time sensitive. For example, let's pick up IEEE C37.118 in BAM system, right? So that needs to be the purpose of the BAM system is to have a real time information, right? So that a real time supervising and monitoring of the grid can happen. For that, we have this protocol which is giving you almost a minimum of 30 samples per second. Like that's the data. It can even go up to 240 samples per data per second. So I'm talking about that granular level of information. Moving back to, let's say, SCADA, which like each of our country has it, right? We use it, in India we use it in LC104. Then in US we have the NP3, right? Now the SCADA system functionality is not to give you the real time information, but yeah, a snippet of it. So it refreshes after every a couple of seconds, maybe 4 seconds or 5 seconds, depending upon the usage and all. So again, so hence the protocol. So I hope you're getting the idea, because these protocols are different, their structures are different, and hence the usage. Now, summarizing, like if you can see, we have different verticals in grid. We have physical layer in all of them. We have communication layer. We have control center. But if you're trying to, if you can, map it to the previous slide which we right now discussed, if you can see, it's not just physical. There are a lot of communications. There is a IT system. If you can see the last row over here, the server, the historian, active directory, email servers, it also has an integration with IT, right? So where am I leading to? Just to give you a clear perspective of how complex our smart grid system is currently. It is no longer physically, I'm repeating that again and again. It is a cyber physical system. It is integrated with IT. Why have we done that? Because of course we need better functionalities, right? We need a lot of, as the demand is increasing and everything, we need better operation, better efficiency of all of it. Now, with all of that, good aspects of it, maybe we can move to the next slide, Shift. Just to give, yeah. So with all of that, having said that, you can see physical grid, cyber part of it, like IT integration also is there. So along with the pros that it brings, right, there are a lot of cons also. It has opened a lot of vulnerable areas. There are a lot of attack surfaces which are there, right? It doesn't mean that we should go back to the physical, of course, like we need it, right, because of the high complex demand and everything is there, so this is not negotiable. But again, we can't ignore the other side of it, what this cyber physical system has bring with it. It is the exposure of the system to the cyber attacks. And hence, if you can see, there have been multiple incidents till now, some of them being reported, most of them have not been reported. So starting from 2013 till 2020, so we have just tried to capture a couple of them over here, just to give you an idea that cyber attack on grid is not something of the research topic or something very very futuristic we are talking about. They are happening right now, right? They are very very real, and these are just very few examples of that. And so this is a problem, right? We need to deal with it. That's why the topic is important. Now just picking up one or two, so Ukraine, so this is a there's a proper official report about it, black energy malware. Now what it could do, right? A simple malware in the that SCADA system, it actually led to loss of power to almost 3 lakh citizens, right? That's just the beginning of it. And why this topic is very important before we move on, we know that of all the critical infrastructures, smart grid is one which is at a heart of every other infrastructure in a country, which is kind of it supports any country. It's a backbone of a country, right? The power system. Now, having said that, if this system comes under cyber attack, right, like power loss to the consumers is just one aspect of it, right? There can be multiple other aspects, like the defense sector, the hospitals. So there are a lot of things that can go wrong, and it can even lead to loss of monetary is just one of them. Loss of life can also be one extreme thing that can happen. So all this, why am I mentioning? Because just to give you an idea of like how important this topic is to be addressed at this point, right? The wars are happening because of it, right? Yeah. So Shiv, would you like to elaborate in some of them?
Yeah, very valid point that you made, that power systems being the mother of all the critical infrastructures. It's very critical to secure them. If there is no power, then you will not have other utilities available to you, whether it's a power, whether it's a water facility, whether your health care systems, all of them do require power. And this is why I can have a good example now that I had a power failure and I was out of the
Yeah.
meeting. So that's a very critical one. So, of course, we have seen that the adversaries, whether it's the nation states, the fight between two different nations, or maybe otherwise as well, the adversaries will always try to attack the critical infrastructure of the nation, and power sector being one of them. These are just few examples. Black energy industries are very well known. Then there are attacks on the Water and Electricity Authority of Israel as well in 2020. And then there are some groups which are targeting these infrastructures in the last few years, whether it's the Red Echo group from China, which is also targeting critical infrastructure of different nations, or maybe again the Russia-Ukraine war, which is continuously having different variants of black energy. We have three different variants available. Industrial 2 also is available. So n number of examples are there. So of course, it's a big concern. The grids are continuously getting targeted, and being more connected, the customer premise, the AMI infrastructure, actually making the increase in the threat vectors as well. So very well explained. Thanks to
Yeah,
you, Asta.
definitely. Totally agree to it. Yeah.
So yeah, let's move ahead then. Then we have discussed already some part of it. Why do we need security? Of course, the power grid, or say smart grid, or cyber physical infrastructure, we need it for our different economic and social needs, and that's why we want to keep them up and running. Then in the past, there are cyber incidents which will try to put them down. We need to be securing them as well. Another big part is the legacy element in the power grid, which has inherent vulnerabilities. We know that the systems that we have been using for last 20-25 years, they are not secure. So we need to put some additional security countermeasures, or we need to put continuous monitoring and other methodologies to secure our grids. Also, since the systems were initially designed to for operations, the security was not treated well, and the people who are working in these grids, they don't have security understanding, so there could be possibility of knowingly or unknowingly different kind of attacks possible. Some examples are already available that the disgruntled employees can actually cause nuisance of the systems. When they have knowledge of the system, they have access to the system, they can actually get in the system from outside of the infrastructure as well, and they will try to attack. Another example could be if you have wireless being used somewhere in your substation or the other areas, then the people around the areas can do a ward driving and then get access to the Wi-Fi and then try to get into the system. So those kind of things are pretty much possible. Customer premise equipment could be another example in the AMI, which uses Wi-Fi as well. So you can get it through the customer premise as well to attack the grid. And the loss could be either economic or maybe availability issues in the grid. Different kind of possibilities do exist in terms of impact on the grid. What would you like to add here, Asta?
Yeah, very well said, Shiv. That's a very important point that you covered. Like the pointers which can which are the easy low hanging fruits for the attackers to capture. So just one more example to it. Maybe like right now we are seeing a lot of EV infrastructure around, right? So that is also something of very concern right now because EVs. So it's an integration of that transport system, the grid system, and these days we are talking about vehicle to grid transfer of the power because of the batteries, right? Which is like a very nice from the very useful from that generation perspective that we have one battery source, and it holds capacity to send back the power. But do we have that resilient infrastructure, attack resilient? So we do not have that right now, so people are also working towards it. And again, like you mentioned, there's a Wi-Fi, anything, any equipment like IoTs, the chargers also being one of the IoT devices, right? Anything that is at a customer premises, they do lack, like intentionally or unintentionally, they are like they lack the required security, and that gives attacker first hand over it. And they can because of this integrated, like because everything is very connected, and so attackers just need very one weak point that can be just an IoT device to enter the system, and that can lead towards your to transmission or distribution. We don't know that. So yeah,
Absolutely.
that is why it's very important. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, also, when we want to address the security, we need to have a different focus here. So now we have seen why we need security. This is part of how you will do the security. So safety is very critical here. Like these are big equipments, and anything goes wrong, it could have security safety considerations for human being. Then availability of the grid is essential. It is our national critical infrastructure. You want it to be up. Next to it is the integrity, and through integrity also you can have availability issues. You change the data of these different circuit breakers or protection relays. False data injection is the one of the attack which is possible on the grid, and through this you can actually cause availability issues. Confidentiality goes a bit low in the priority of the smart grid security focus, but it's also very important. This kind of information about the consumption data of, let's say, customers could be used for different adversarial perspective. One of the example could be like somebody in the region would monitor that what is the consumption data in this particular locality, and then if we see that, oh, these are the houses which are not having the consumption of electricity during these many hours, or let's say these particular days of the month, then the crimes like burglary or theft, these kind of crimes are also possible. And now we are in the living in the integrated world. The criminals are very smart. They are using the technology to their advantage. So we need to put all the protection goal, but the of course in all the critical infrastructures and industrial control system, safety comes first, and that's how we start with it. Over to you, Asta. What would you like to add?
Yeah, I think you have covered most of it, Shiv. But just one pointer that I would like to add to it is like most of you might be like curious, like why is confidentiality a priority in IT and availability, whereas availability in any critical infrastructure. So the reason behind this is like for any of the critical infrastructures, including smart grid, the operation, the functionality matters the most, right? So the security takes a backseat. Why? Because we want our system to be operational first. It should do the functionality for which it is designed for, and for that, availability of every resource and every data, your hardwares, your softwares, and every application. So the availability aspect of each and every component in the grid matters the most. Because if, let's say, the functionality fails, then there is no point, right? It can lead to a lot of disastrous impacts. So that is one of the reasons that why do we have availability on top, followed by integrity, of course, because we don't want the functionality of the system to be operating in some malicious way. Like if any application is the algorithm is running at a control center to to take certain decision based on certain data which it is receiving from the physical end. If a malicious actor is able to manipulate the data, of course the functionality, even though it is happening, but it's not happening in a right way, right? So it may give some wrong decisions which can again lead to some disastrous impact. So that is why integrity is also important, and of course, like confidentiality takes a backseat. It's not like it's not important, but yeah, it's the last of the four. Yeah.
Yes, so we have another availability and integrity, both of them. We have example from our today's session. We had availability issue and then we had integrity issue as well. We were not functioning the way we were supposed to do it, right? And lot of things went wrong. We had availability issue, and through that we had integrity issue as well. So yeah, the both of them are important. The critical infrastructure, it requires it in that order. Thanks for adding there, Asta. So now let's move forward. How would you like to define it? What should be the approach for securing the smart grid?
Okay, so like having seen all of those things, maybe till now, like all of us who are there in the call, maybe we have understood that of the grid is important, right? I believe that each one of us is on the same page right now. That we do need to have a secure grid, but to the approach in general, it's not just power grid, but in general, security is a very very holistic approach. It's like it's not just technology, so it's three things that has to go in sync with each other. So like mentioned on the slide, you can see it's a three-dimensional approach. There are people, there are processes, and then the technology, of course, right? So it's not just one of them that can lead the things. So all have to go in sync. How? Because like people who are operating the system, who are there, not even operating, we as a customer also maybe, right? So each one holds that responsibility. So in a way, we are a part of that system as customers, right? So we should be aware of that. This is a concern. We should understand that cybersecurity is a problem for grid. So with that understanding and that basics, we should be very very vigilant around these topics. Yeah. So that's there come people role. We need to be of course awareness, and for that different industries they conduct trainings also as part of it to do that awareness. Then comes the process. Now, having said that, so like every nation around the world, most of it, they are they are aware of that grid security is a problem, and they've already started working towards it. It's been almost, I think, more than 5 to 7 years, I would say. Like they have already come up with standards and guidelines and best practices how you can secure the IT security was already there, and they have taken that as a as a base to build up the security for the critical infrastructures, including grid. Now, so there are like standards, there are guidelines which are being given as part of the processes. Then following that comes the technology part. Now within that, these days we are hearing a lot about AI based securities. We have cryptos around, right? So these are just a couple of examples for that. Yeah, maybe Shiv, you can add to it more.
So yeah, uh, so what I'm seeing here is these three key elements or this three dimension of security is very very important. All of these three should work in cohesion to achieve a holistic cybersecurity approach. First, you need to give awareness to the people that why you want to do, and then these people will become the means to achieve your target of security. Awareness alone is not sufficient if you don't have supporting processes and technology available. I can tell my people that okay, you need not to do a um, remote connection to your system through insecure application like any desktop team. I did not set the process of what is the right way to do this, what is the correct way to do the remote access, and what is the technology that will support it. So all of them are required. We'll start with people, give them the basic understanding, then we start with processes. Again, we'll go to people, explain them the processes, we implement the technology, go to people and give them the training of those technology implementation. All of this will work in cohesion and the cycle goes on. Every time there is a change in the technology or process, people should be made aware of. It is often possible in the bigger entities that you change some processes and people are not aware about it. And when the incident arises, if they are not aware what should be done, how they should even detect the incident, then this could be a problem, and this could be so much of loss of time before you can actually could have mitigated the incident with the available technology already. But since people are not aware about the process, you might go at the loss. Yeah, so that's my perspective over here.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's move forward to the security standards and guidelines and frameworks as well. So if you see on the left side of your screen, you see that there are different regulations throughout the globe available. In US, there are different entities that are working: CISA, NIST, the NUCSIP standard. All of them are actually focused towards the smart grid. And in the North American region, NUCSIP is pretty much the standard. Everyone knows about it. They use it heavily. In the European region, there are different standards do exist specifically for critical infrastructures. There is one for the management of critical infrastructures through the NIS2 directives, and then for the technology part, how do you achieve in the systems and the components? They have the Cyber Resilience Act coming in. In the other regions like UK, the NCSC actually defines different requirements. Earlier, they also had NIS1 directive, but they do also follow some adoptions of GDPR as well. If we talk about India, there are currently no regulation as such, but there do exist guidelines either from the NCIIPC or from the Central Electricity Authority. Different sectoral certs, which are also part of our India's CERT organization, like the CERT thermal or CERT hydro, all of them do provide the guidelines for cybersecurity. So we do have a good mix of guidelines available from different entities as such. If we talk of international standards, so there are some operational standards, there are some governance and policy standards, and there are also technical standards. So if I start at high level in terms of policy and governance, then 27001 series of standard is the one that is also having a energy sector specific adoption in terms of 27019. And then for security systems level security requirement, IEC 62443 is available, and we are going to talk about the standard in a bit. And finally, for the technical aspects, like the protocols that you mentioned previously in the slide, they do require security aspect. They were not designed with security in mind. So 62351 from IEC ISO is the one which provides the security guidelines for secure implementation of those protocols. So before I move forward to maybe 62443, what would you like to add here, Asta? Since you have worked with government, of India specifically, how are we moving towards adopting a regulation or a India specific standard?
Yeah, yeah. I think Shiv, like you said, you have covered most part of it from the standard and the guidelines perspective. But if I focus specifically towards the India side of it, so I kind of I'm very proud to say that like India has geared up at a very fast level, fast pace to have that security in different substations, different control system. They are really so work is really happening on the ground. It's no longer theoretical. India is not at all far behind, even though being the technology wise like we do compare it, but yeah, they have the work is really happening fast. So most of the substations they are currently ISO 27K like compliant right now, and then there are very strict guidelines to everyone, and people are also like very aware and they are following it also, like IC 62351, IC 62443. So the audits are happening continuously, and also from the technology side, right? So if you look not just from the security, Indian grid is one of the very well advanced, and it's up to the pace type. Like it's not just in the research that they are following. So they are implementing the new technologies for better functionality, and along with it, they are also incorporating the security perspectives of it. Like PGCI being one example. So they are looking into it very seriously. Yeah. And as part of that, so there have been organizational structures have been already done a couple of years back, and like certain is there, right? And every the monitoring kind of things, they have already been laid out. There are instructions to different utilities that if you flag any incident and all, you need to report within 24 hours, and like guidelines like that, right? So
Yes.
this is a very important thing as part of the CA guideline that you right now mentioned, right? So every utility is supposed to have a CISO, right? Whom the people, even operator at a hierarchy as at a low level, they also know whom to report to. So it's not like there is no ambiguity now. The structure is very very clear, and the guidelines are there. They are looking into it. NCIPC is again very dedicatedly working towards it. So yeah, I think India is in a very good shape right now, and we are doing great there. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for putting that perspective. Now let's get into one specific cybersecurity framework, which is a very, very well encompassing cybersecurity framework governing the overall cybersecurity requirement.
Yeah.
So, NIST cybersecurity framework is available to not only the critical infrastructures but the other enterprises organization as well, and it has five different functions, starting from first identification and then protection, then getting into detection, respond, and recovery. And these five functions have different categories of security requirements. Recently, the new version has been released, and there is new function that is added, which is governance to the entire the functions of the NIST framework. So earlier, the governance was not explicitly called out. Now the governance is very explicit, because once you made the program, you require it to be sustained, and you need to be matured, and that's why governance is very important. So NIST framework can be very well adopted to your smart grid requirement, and it will cover your requirements starting from the IT side of the world to the OT side of the world, as well as your um, new entities like EV infrastructure, or maybe the renewables as well. What would you like to add, Asta, in this one? Do you have some more insight to add about the applicability of NIST framework, since you have worked with different entities earlier? How much is this particular framework is being used in the smart grid?
Yeah, going towards it, this is a very, very important, a very clear infrastructure guideline, you can say, a framework that has been given to the critical infrastructures, like how you should, once you have identified that, okay, you have a problem to address, how you should, approach. So that's a very nice framework which keeps, like Shiv mentioned, it keeps updating. So this is a very very recent one in 2023 that we got in August, where govern feature has been added. So I would like to just pick up, like from the smart grid perspective, maybe I'll pick up like one of these to give you an example of how this applies to grid, right?
Mhm.
So even though it looks like a cycle, because it does go that way, but the very first step, if you can look at the right hand side figure, the identity identifies the very first step out of it. Now from the grid perspective, so this is like asset management is very very important. Not just grid, any OT, like you should know your components and the assets around. It is OT, IT, or anything, right?
Mhm.
So we should be knowing what all is there. That is, apart from this also includes the governance, the risk assessment, and all that, right? Now once that is done, once you know your assets and all, then moving forward is a protect phase, right? Now when I say protect, that means you can relate it to prevention, like how you can how you can how what all you can have in your system to prevent the cyber attacks from happening. So as part of that, access control is very very important. Yeah. Now of course awareness and training is there, because if people are not aware, then something wrong can happen very easily, right? Like phishing attacks and all. So access control, that is also very important. So role based access control is being practiced, right? Now if I talk from the grid perspective, like each of these relays, if I pick up like IDs and all, they also have role based access controls. The facilities, the securities are being inherited on those devices, so as to and that pen drive mode and also that has also been removed, right? The Bluetooth, and also they are doing these small steps, like EV chargers initially used to have that Bluetooth perspective. Now what they are trying to some of the vendors, they are trying to remove that Bluetooth, just to limit that access. So that is one aspect of it. Moving towards detect. Now let's say now you have done everything to prevent the attacks from happening, but let's say the attack happens, so you should have some systems in your, there has to be some systems which should detect the if attack happens. So what can be included there? So that can be AI based your malicious attack detection, right? Anomaly detection kind of thing. These days, like AI based is it's they have proven to be very very successful in that regard. So that is there. There are rule based detection that is also there, right? So you can have it.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a normal pattern, but again, if there is some anomaly, you can. This is something to be flagged out to the operator. So such kind of detections need to be there. May not be totally automatic of automatic, but yeah, to some level it needs to be there. Now, after detect comes the respond phase. Now, let's say the attack has happened, it has been detected. What are you supposed to do after that? So there has to be mitigation strategies in that, right? Within that response. Now that can be different based on SCADA may have some different mitigations. Of course, like based on state estimation may have something different. We will be covering the applications that CSMS at the end. They may have something different based on the applications, right? So such kind of mitigations need to be incorporated in the system. Finally, now when you have responded it, you have mitigated the impact. We need to have a recover phase because we want our system to be back to original, right? So that is also like recovery planning, disaster planning, and all kind of things. So this completes the entire cycle, and that's how we follow it in grid. Over
Yeah,
to
absolutely. Yes. So this is very, very well-known framework, and I think you have try to give a very good explanation of what could be the different areas that could be addressed through this one. So I think we are already consuming a lot of time because of our glitch, and then I don't want people to wait much. Let's quickly cover these two standards as well, and then maybe we'll see if we have any further question left from the people.
sure.
So IC 62443 is another standard, very well known and very popular. It's the only standard specifically designed for industrial automation and control system. So any industrial and control system, whether it's a manufacturing system or the critical infrastructure like the power system, there is a possibility of adoption of the standard. And now these new regulations, they are specifically asking to comply with 62443 component level security, which is the 4 series in the standard, also asking for secure development according to 4-1 in the standard. And then the systems like the substation, they should also be compliant to the standards like 3-3. So some of the OEMs have already provided their systems conformance against IEC 62443, and these documents are also available online. But IEC 62443 or ISA as such, they have also recognized that the standard needs to be tuned for specific use cases, and these use cases would be called profiles. So what they have done is, in the one particular section of this standard, they have mentioned how can this particular standard would be adopted to different security requirements, and they have designed the structure of it. Now the work is going on to design those security profiles as such. Energy sector is taken as first of them, and in few months or maybe years we would be able to see energy sector specific security profile of IEC 62443. Currently, the original standard in itself, like 3-3 part and 4-2 part, can also be used to comply the security requirement. You can do the risk assessment, identify what are the security requirements applicable to your system or the component, and then design your system accordingly, or maybe you should be able to configure it accordingly. So I'm not getting into the details of IC 62443 because I try to do it in different sessions, and if I get into too much of detail, the session will become too long over here. Do you want to add something on 62443, Asta?
No, I think we are all covered here. You have covered it in detail. And yes, like Shiv mentioned, there is a separate proper series that Shiv has done on this. So if you want to go into detail, please look at those videos. Yeah.
So yeah, before we get into the last track, the mitigation measures, this is the IEC 62351, which actually talks about different protocols. Like we have IEC 104 protocol and the secure adoption of it, and then you have profiles for MMS and GOOS, and then you have the security XML profile, security architectures in this particular section, which is dash 10. And then they have spoken about resiliency and other areas of security. So this is a very comprehensive standard. Maybe we can also plan one particular session focused on 62351 that will give more insight how you can adopt and what are the specific concerns addressed in this particular part of the standard. Inclusion of this particular slide into the discussion is to give the awareness that yeah, there is availability of a security standard as well for adoption of these different protocols which were not designed securely. Would you like to add something on this before I jump to the final conclusion
Just
slide?
finishing touch to it, like you rightly said. So the main focus of this IC 62351 is the security of the communication protocols, like Shiv mentioned. Out of those, one important protocol is 61850, which is used for energy automation. The substations use that. And yeah, so these protocols, like for example, if I pick up IC 61850, which is used like which has sample values and boost being a very important part of it. Also, the MMS is there. So they have been designed, but it is not compulsory to so these standards by themselves, they do not have security incorporated. Why? Because they are used in such applications. For example, like Goose is used in substations, and there are very time critical applications which needs to be completed in, let's say, 4 milliseconds, right? So in that we cannot have those encryptions and all. But so that is why it's not there in a compulsory section. It's not incorporated. But along with that, the standard came in to give you the recommendations. Like if you want to include the security, so they have given certain cryptographic kind of solutions for it. Let's say if you're changing some application of it, you're using it some different domain, and you do want security, so you can incorporate the security which is recommended in the standard with that protocol to enhance the overall security of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so thanks for adding that perspective, Astha. Now we have the last slide of the day, which is the key areas to focus for smart grid security. So I start with the prevention first, and the prevention will happen when design secure products and secure systems. This will be through signed firmwares in the systems. This is being adopted now, but earlier there was no signed firmware available, and then the adversary can actually change the firmware and then get access to the system and try to do different malicious attack. Then communication security is also very important. 62351 addresses a lot about it. Now you can adopt the one particular protocol that you mentioned, 61850, which have three different versions, the sample value goes and MMS. Then certificate management also important. Here we have seen this attack like Stuxnet, which has actually stolen the valid certificate of two different OEMs to design their malware and sign it. So securing the certificate itself is also very important. Then design of a redundant system, that all the critical aspect of the grid should be redundant, so that one of the system goes, you have availability of another system to take over the load of the automation of the grid. Network segmentation, role-based access control, very basic requirement. Once you have understanding of what is your system, you divide it into the small cells and then decide what kind of security is required for them through different mechanisms like putting the firewalls, putting the network access control, and within those zones you can adopt the role-based access control as well. For your continuous monitoring, security logging is also very important. And these 5 or 6 recommendations you will also find for different ICS as well, but there are two different focus areas that we have included in this discussion, which are you're setting up a moving security targets, which is like dynamically changing your attack surface. This could be possible through changing the configuration of the system continuously, so that you are making more difficult for the adversary to attack the system. And then another one is the domain specific security control, which I would like Asa to take up, because you have a lot of expertise in working on this particular area of security implementation in the power grid.
Okay, thank you, Shiv. So yeah, like Shiv mentioned, like each of these the blocks that you can see on the screen, they are non-negotiable. Like to have any secure system, we can't avoid any of them, because they each of them have different functionality, different purpose. So that's very important to have a secure system in place. Now, having said that, once you have all of this, now security being a subjective topic, it's like never enough, right? So having that in mind, and having all of these different like certificate management, network segmentation, security logging, and all of this in place, after that what else you can do and what else you should do comes the grid domain based security. Why am I focusing on that? Because if you remember the very first slide and the infrastructure that we covered, there are a lot of different systems and grid. Each one have a the communication protocols. Even the communication mediums are different, right? Some of them, follow the power line communication. Some of them have fiber optic communication. Some of them have wireless communication, right? So because of such a diversity in system, it's not fair to assume that each one of them can be protected by just a common security practices, right? We need to have this basic one in place, but in addition to that, it's also important to design security detection and mitigation practices which correspond to that system itself. For example, in SCADA we have state estimation as an application. Now we know that state estimation has bad data detection in byte in itself, but how you can, that is there for the data itself, it is not considering the cyber attack. But these days, if you look into the research perspective, people are trying to improve that state estimation. They're incorporating it, improving it to accommodate the attack also, so that it can flag out the attack. We have load flow analysis. For example, we have wide area measurement systems, wide area supervising control, supervising monitoring. So in that, based on the application itself, it's very very important to to have the detection mechanisms as well as the mitigation mechanisms, which will be very very customized to that application, so that it will definitely be an add-on to that the vertical of that git, and will surely add to the attack resiliency of that system. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for adding that perspective, Asta. I think we now are at the end of the discussion. I'll quickly check if we have any questions. Otherwise, I think we are good to close. Yeah,
Sure.
so
I
I
have a couple of questions before you move on. So I tried to answer one or two, but there were some which I could not answer in the beginning of a chat. Maybe you can also look at that.
Okay, so I'm not able to see the previous questions now. I only see one question. It's a could you elaborate one practical use case? But I'm not sure on which particular slide this question was asked. So I don't have the context. Uh,
Maybe you can give one example of substation based audits that you may have done. Something like that. That may be helpful.
yeah, so this one practical use case for the substation. Definitely, thanks for reminding me that, Asta. So we had done that extensive work, and I think you can check online. There is a secure substation manual from Siemens available, which has IEC 62443 specific implementation, and this is a comprehensive work that we had tried to do earlier. So that will give you a good understanding that though substation is just one part of the grid, but yeah, it will give you a good understanding. Yeah, then there is another question just now come up, like how can we secure legacy protocols like Modbus? Yeah, so it's very difficult to secure them if you uh, want to continue with the same protocol. But yeah, the grid is now moving to the more secure versions of different protocols, and the only way you can secure these old protocols is defense in depth mechanism and putting alternate countermeasures. One of them could be physical security, putting the physical security and network segmentation, so that the system is not accessible to the people who want to attack your system. I don't think any other way Modbus kind of protocols would be possible to secure. It's only the
Maybe just to add to it, like what you already said, so this may be helpful. So legacy protocols like Modbus and all, so they are having secure versions also, like Sunspec Modbus and all. So we are having, but like Shiv rightly said, they are not completely secure, but at least somewhere in between. So there are like a little bit of security that has been added to it, which is not surely sufficient. So along with, so it's important to update your protocol version that you're using. So that is one thing. So once you're using that updated version, it's very important to also incorporate the pointers that Shiv right now mentioned, like network segmentation and all. Yeah, I think both of these, when done together, may be a better version. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so now we have one more question. How can you manage access control centrally across multiple sites? Yeah, so the simple answer to this is to have your centralized active directory, but this should be managed in secure manner. In the document that we have written earlier, we tried to demonstrate one of the use case to keep your Active Directory domain controller separate from your IT side of the world. You should not merge both the Active Directories to keep these credentials separate. Why we want to do that is the adversary will first try to attack your IT infrastructure, and when they have the credentials available from the IT world, you are using the same credential. It's easy to get into your OT side of the world as well. So keep them separate. Then you need to put one secure way that is possible is to put a Active Directory domain controller, the parent domain controller at the control center side, and in different substations you can basically put a read-only domain controller, which will sync one side. And if you want additional security measures, you can put data diode kind of thing to secure additionally. Would you like to add something over here, Asta?
I think you have covered it all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, good.
So I don't see any other further questions. If you have any further question on this particular topic, do drop your questions in the comment box. We'll try to answer it. And I once again, I would like to thank you all for being supportive and waiting for us while we were away due to this technical glitch. We try to do better next time. We'll try to improve our infrastructures. So let's hope next time we'll be able to do it in more qualitative manner. Again, thanks Asta for your time. It was such a wonderful discussion for me, at least, apart from that particular glitch. And thank you once more for filling in for me when I was away because of this power issue.
No,
Thank
no,
you.
I think, yeah. Thank you so much, Shiv, for inviting me here and having me here, and thank you so much, audience, like again for bearing with us during that glitch time. I really enjoyed, and I really had a very nice interactive session. Yeah, it was a pleasure for me to be here.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a pleasant rest of your evening.
Yeah,
See you next time.
thank you. Bye bye, everyone.